Hello.
Hey, hey.
Hello. Welcome,
What up?
everybody.
I feel like this is summer edition of Bobby's Cryptid Corner.
We're half outside,
Uh,
half inside.
Yeah, we're half outside, we're half inside, but this is our very first episode that we have where Tony, aka Mr. Bottled Water,
Water.
is our new permanent host
Yes.
here
Oh my god,
at
I
Bobby's
love that.
Cryptid Corner.
Corner. I love
Yes.
that.
I'm excited.
Yes.
I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you guys reached out to me.
Yeah, you were such a perfect fit. It's so funny. I feel like we've been, like, since the first time we had you on the show in our little Bobby's Cryptid Corner text chat,
Yeah.
we would always just be like, Tony's a perfect fit. Tony's a perfect fit. Tony's great.
Mhm.
He equals us
Awesome.
out. Tony's a perfect fit. And then finally we're like, should we just ask him to be a part of this? Like,
And then, quite honestly, we thought that you hated us because we sent you a message and you didn't respond for like a week, and we were just convinced that you didn't want to hang out with us anymore. And we were like, wow.
like, no, he's still ghosted. Still
No,
ghosted.
it's
That
so-
was like, I need another bro around.
Yeah.
And I've said before, like, it's kind of a running joke that I just don't check my Instagram messages. There's a
Okay,
guy
same.
who sends me creepy videos. Like, I probably get 20 videos from this dude a week, and I never respond. And I look at it, and it's like, you have 20 missed messages, and I'm just like, yeah, that's that guy. So I really
What do you
didn't
mean
know.
by creepy videos? Like of like creepy videos that he makes, or creepy videos,
No,
just
no,
random
like-
creepy videos?
Stuff he finds on the internet, and he sends it to me.
Oh, that's dope.
Weird.
Hey, send him our way.
I was like,
We'll
actually,
check the
yeah.
messages for Tony.
Tell him to send
Somebody
Send
needs
him
to,
our
because
way.
I'm not very good at it.
Oh my gosh. We're not the best at either. Social media can be draining. But listen, before we get
I just want to say that Tony answers me immediately whenever I message him.
Well, I'm glad, Bobby.
He also messages me on Twitter, so
So that's exactly how.
son of a bitch.
yep.
All right. So our drinking word of the day is going to be mermaid or merman.
Mermaid or mermaid.
Okay.
We're doing mermen
So-
too.
Oh yeah, we are, because we're not sexist here.
We're not
So if you
We
some
don't
mer-
know how they identify.
merfolk, merfolk. So if you guys, if we say it and you see this cute little pop up,
Mm.
yes, this is I made this man just for you guys.
Wow,
If
I
he
love
pops
him.
up, you know
Break
to
it down.
drink.
That's definitely a dad bod under the sea.
For sure.
Yeah, he wants you to get drunk.
Actually, you know what? Speaking of Under the Sea, at the very end of the episode, we are going to talk about the Little Mermaids. So if
Oh,
everyone
I
can
thought
make
we
it
were
through
going
to
to
the
sing the
end.
song.
Well, you know what? If we want to, we can. I know the entire thing.
Sea.
Under the sea.
What
down
Can we
where it's
all-
wetter, that's where it's better. Take it from me.
I'd like to preface this episode by saying that we had no idea, I think, how large of a subject that this is.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so we will go through everything, but there's so much that we missed out. We definitely, I mean, I don't have anything about like Alaska.
There's so much that we're
Or
not gonna
like
touch on.
Antarctica, all the like other places. So there really are so many documented fables, different folklore, even just history like Christopher Columbus. I missed that as well. That does talk about mermaids. So we will cover as much as we can, but there's so much in this topic. I don't think any of us had
Think about
any
it
idea.
think about it kind of like Bigfoot, right? So like mermaids are kind of like an overall thing how Bigfoot is. There's every area has its own version of it, their own stories, their own slight variations of it, and I think that that's what we've come with like a lot of these like cryptids that we believe to be more on the real side is that like there's a one big name for them, whether that be mermaids or Bigfoots or something, and then there's a million subdivisions throughout the entire world who have interacted with whatever this is.
like an umbrella, and then it just rains from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And I
think that,
honestly, I think it's more mermaid than Bigfoot, to be honest. I think there's more documented cases of mermaid, mermen-ish
Merpeeps.
instances. Uh-oh.
Then Bigfoot,
Than Bigfoot.
I think that speaks a lot on the phenomenon itself because, like you said, like we went in like, oh, mermaids, that's going to be kind of like an easy, quick, kind of fun throwaway episode of the Cryptid Corner. And
Not
then
at all.
we both all started texting each other at the same time, like as we were doing research. We're like, holy shit! Like,
Or oh shit.
this thing transcends freshwater, saltwater, continents, cultures, the whole globe. And I was thinking, like, oh, mermaids, they're like so obviously some sort of mythology. Like I mean, I am, just by doing research alone, I am leaning further out of sci-fi than I was previously.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. Same. The more I dug into it, and the more I
like some sort of mythical thing of sailor fantasy or whatever. That. Like,
and I was going to say
Yeah,
the same
it's
thing.
not.
When I first thought about it,
Like,
I thought about
hey,
immediately. I was like, oh yeah, sailors.
Like, what are you talking about? Please stop talking to me. You're crazy. But there seems to be a lot of eyewitness accounts.
For sure. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the history and some regions' lores. I want to say kind of in the Asian-y areas where you kind of...
Yeah, so let's just go through it. So we're definitely going to talk about mermaids and merfolk. So merfolk can be both genders, maid-wise, okay? So, and the word mermaid comes because a compound of mer in Old English is sea, and of course maid is a girl or a young woman. It's like if you're a bridesmaid, you're, you know. So we all see where that comes from.
If you're cleaning my house.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
This is like our typical, this is like a mixture of what we think folklore-wise and then also actual depicted art.
Yeah, that's very typical. The bottom half of them is the fish. The upper half is the more womanly version of them. And I believe that we're actually going to get into a little bit of the lore of why it specifically has that look.
Yes, for sure. So the origins is not as easy as it usually is when it comes to our cryptid corners. Usually it's like one specific state or one specific part of the country. And this phenomena is worldwide. So the very first account that at least labels mermaid goes back to 1000 BC in Assyria, which is now our modern day Syria. From the goddess Atagritis, and she is the goddess of fertility. So she casts herself from the ocean to take the form of a fish, but the gods will not let her get rid of her body, her beautiful body. So they make sure it's still intact. So then she just has that upper part of her body that is a human and the lower half is a fish.
Question.
Yes. Oh, that's her right there.
I'm confused by that statement of them not wanting to get rid of her beautiful body, but getting rid of her voluptuous booty and her sex organs.
Yes.
So, like, it's interesting that they say that because really the only thing they keep is, like, her face and her boobs. Like,
well,
her
from the waist up.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
I will say that to bring this into modern perspective, the ratio of men that are... how can I say this in a like a nice the ratio of what men prefer ratio wise even in modern day seems to focus more on the top half of a woman's body
and
not
very
so much
interested in women's faces in their eyes
and their both sets of eyes. That seems to be more of a focus.
Brie, why did she throw herself into a sea?
Because she was like YOLO.
Yeah, there's not too much. I feel like a lot of these times in these stories, they don't get super nitty gritty into details. It was just she threw herself into the ocean.
No, she was fucking. She was sick of what's happening. She's like, I'm gonna give birth to every place I can. So this is her. This is an actual sculpture, but you can see the resemblance in the Starbucks emblem.
Right.
Yes.
There's a lot of conspiracy around the Starbucks emblem, but it really does. I mean, I read just quotes from the company, the people that were designing the logo, and it really was just based off of water because they're there in Portland and it's close to water, and they wanted something that had to do with, like, you know, the fertility, giving birth to, and then linking that with water. So there really isn't. Other people will try to spew it towards, like, oh, they want power and control like a goddess would, or to hypnotize you into almost becoming, like, addicted to that. But just based off of what they said, they were really just inspired by a fertility of water, like the goddess of fertility and water. And it's crazy when you put these side by side. You're like, okay.
Same thing.
Hi, Bobby.
Welcome back, Babs.
So this is why I think it was so insane for us, because, like I said, usually we focus on one area, one continent, one state, and you can really narrow it down. But when it gets to worldwide, then you're opening up a can of worms.
Ooh, is it a manatee?
A manatee,
Yes.
a sea cow.
Yes.
Yes.
This is often depictions of a mermaid. So we're going to start with China.
The fuck is that?
I tried to put the pictures of the actual, like, if there were pictures, I tried to put the pictures, and then I also put the languages, and then what it
so one thing about
translates
China
to
is China more believes in mermen than they do necessarily merwomen.
So there's lots of accounts actually in many books when it comes to China, but these are the two ones that I believe stick out the most. So this is the 4th century BC. Calling the creature Lang Yu or Ren Yu. I'm sure we're not saying that right, or I'm not.
Probably not.
But it has a human face. It has the body of a fish. And there are different kinds of mermaid within that sector. And some of them have 4 feet. So instead of like 2 hands and 2 feet, they have 4 feet, and they're basically immortal. Like if they die, they have the ability to bring themselves back to life, which, like in normal powers, you see the ability to maybe bring others back to life, but they have the ability to bring themselves back to life.
And it's interesting you say that, because one of the more Americanized stories of mermen and how they kind of, like, the first instance of them was a story that was told where a man had a special potion that brought fish back to life, and he wanted to see how it would work on humans, and so he drank it, and he ended up becoming this, like, eternal being, and he was, like, super unhappy about it. Yeah, he was super unhappy about it at the beginning, but then he ended up, like, going into the ocean, and all the ocean creatures, like, taught him, like, the ways of the ocean, and he learned how to be a prophet and things like that. And then he spent the rest of eternity, like, telling sailors how to get home safely. So it's interesting because I think that part of that kind of links back to this Chinese idea of basically the same thing.
For sure. And then later times, the second book, technically I think it was the third, the record there, I really don't want to say the name. I think it's like Yao Chow. This is specifically to the South China Sea, where the Mer people are said to turn their tears into pearls.
Yeah, I don't think your mic's working, Bobby, for some reason.
Which is a huge asset.
Yeah, no, can't hear you.
And they were known to knit a valuable material that was white as frost and could never become wet. So obviously that is silk. And because of that, that sent fishermen after them, because they have pearls and silk. Huge trading substances, materials there. And they're basically chased after because of that. And then it turned into because they were sought after them. Bad things would happen, of course, which could be normal. Bad things happen, or it could be on purpose. And so because of the people that were going after them, and then bad things were happening, like maybe a crazy storm, or the ship capsized, or someone loses an arm, whatever, it became known that those who capture these mer people, it's bad luck. It's absolute bad luck. It's like a no. And so it became kind of customary in the time for that. Anything that was not of the fish that you were fishing, that you got in your net, you would automatically cast back. Whether or not it was a mer person or not, it was customary that if it's not of the fish that you were fishing, you cast that back, because you never know what it is, or if it could be a baby mer person, and then you have bad luck because you're going after those materials.
That's such an interesting lore, because I feel like it's so rooted in what most stories and threats like this are, where it's like they're trying to teach you something, like don't go out there and take just whatever you want, like it's not just yours to take.
Absolutely.
If you're only fishing for tuna, go out there and only fish for tuna, and do not respect what you are taking from.
Absolutely. This for sure looks like more of a male, but you know,
yeah,
non-sexist.
The Chinese have like so many different descriptions of what the mer people are, like you were saying. So like one version is like it's literally just the head, like a head of a man, and then like the rest is a fish body, and they're like 500 feet fucking long and shit. Or you have like Bree was saying, where you have like they have all these weird arms and legs and like all these different variations of it. So it's interesting that there's so many different like subsets when it comes to even just the cultures within themselves of the different kind of mermaids that they're seeing.
Absolutely. Which is why I really only started with those two, because I read, and of course they weren't the entire books, they were just sections taken from the book.
Mm-hmm.
I read about 4 different sections of 4 different books and was like, this is way too much. Can we just take the 2 like you know, like meat and potatoes of this? And so that's what I did. But that's also why I tried to show kind of the differences of these lovely women that we consider lovely, because that depicts towards modern time, you know, like the long flowing hair and the pearls. And then you also have this really creepy figure right here that looks literally like a
guy, right? He
gremlin.
Looks like
yeah, and then like look at these feet. The fuck? Like
yeah.
When I think mermaid, it's the right, not the left. Right?
No, for sure. But I think that that's also part of like, and we'll talk about this later, this kind of like Disneyfication of the mermaid, where historically throughout time it's been known as a more scary, not positive, like when you see one, it's a bad thing. And today mermaids, everybody drinks, sorry, they're sweet and cute, and they like give you pearls in the ocean, and they twirl their hair and fall in love with you, and like it's so drastically different than like where they originally started from.
However, I will say that where they originally started from has that contrast.
Oh, for sure.
Which is really interesting, because I always thought that we are dealing with modern day Disneyfication, like you said, that should be a word, where they're just lovely. These ladies on the right, where they're just lovely, making you pearls. And then but really in older times, it's this weird gremlin. But it seems to be that from the starting of time, there was always that split too. And I actually really love that concept, because we always compare this when we come to aliens.
Right.
That it's just like humans. Even though we are the same species, we vary in different size, shapes, colors, and also different personalities and different objectives. Some of us are very nice. Some of us are very awful people. So I kind of like the idea of like, to me, this grounds it as an actual species, because if it was just one way, one look, everything, one color, that to me seems very much like a folklore tale, because you're just depicting one solid item opposed to an actual species where people definitely vary.
Yeah,
so I actually,
know what it kind of reminds me of? One, I mean, there's an obvious correlation with the sirens in, you know, Homer's Odyssey and Greek mythology, and then Jackson. It kind of reminds me.
Did we hear you, Bobby?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But that it kind of also reminds me of how every single culture around the world has dragons, and they're depicted differently depending on the culture. And it's the same thing with mer people.
100%. But I feel like we're starting. We're starting to see that among so many different versions of cryptids these days. You know what I mean? Like
Bigfoot.
It's
Yeti.
not just exactly. It's not just these. It's so many more like lake monsters, water monsters, and things like that. Like we automatically think of Nessie, right? But like every single big laked water area has their own version of that.
Yeah,
totally.
Okay, but this dude right here is my life. Hold on.
Okay.
This person right here, that's me.
A squid.
It's a squid.
That's me.
I like it.
All right, now we are moving to
mollusks.
Japan.
Japan.
All right.
Japan.
I
tried to put the Japanese version of the word. So if anyone wants to get a tattoo because of this episode, I got you, and that's what that's there for. So
I will not be getting a tattoo of a Japanese.
a Nino.
No, not Naiji. No.
No, that's different. The Nijin is different.
No. Nugino. I'm trying to. Nino? No, that's not how you say it. It's like Nigel.
Japanese people in the chat. Can you phonetically spell out how to pronounce this?
Or if Bree could speak Japanese.
I wish, right?
Okay, let's just skip the word.
Can I get a hate crime, please?
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on one sec.
I'm gonna blank. No, please don't. Please don't. Friends.
Sorry,
it's not a hate crime if you don't purposely do it. So this is the story. This is the story that Prince Shotoku was dying, and on his brink of death, most likely out there on the pier, looking over, contemplating his life, like what have I done? This cute little Papa fish, Nino, pops up. He tells him a very sad story.
It might
but
be
this sad story was about that he had once himself been a fisherman, and he entered into prohibited waters, and because of his decision to do that as punishment, he was turned into this hideous animal. This hideous animal is the picture that we're looking at here. Not so much of a mermaid because there's no torso. The depiction here is an entire fish head. An entire fish body and then a human head, most likely with horns. Sometimes it is an entire fish body and a woman head, but oftentimes with horns.
Horns are the important part.
Right. So because he told this prince the sad story and the prince sympathized with him, he asked the prince, can you build a temple displaying like the sadness of life, that like what I did, it's a sad story, but yet it's sacred if you're following the rules, and this is kind of like a holistic experience. So he asked him to put him as a temple, like exactly. And this is kind of how the entire story of this began. This was the first story of this Ningyo.
So have you guys seen?
But it's been said, other than this one instance, it has been said that if you see them, that is going to bring misfortune and storms.
Bad.
Continue.
That's such a Japanese thing to happen when you see mythical creatures.
Yeah, the Japanese mermaid. The picture that you just had up. Has anybody seen Cabin in the Woods?
That was my Bobby's movie recommendation.
Like, does that not look like the mermaid from Cabin in the Woods?
Ooh, drink.
Yeah, I could see that. That one looks more in that movie looks a little bit more like almost like a creature from the Black Lagoon with a fish body kind of thing.
Yeah, a little more.
But yeah, like it seems to be that the Japanese version of these cryptids are more or less not like sexy, buxom, like sailor fantasy.
Right,
exactly.
It's more of a
vixens of the sea. They're more like terrifying.
Ooh, Vixen of the Sea.
Vixens of the Sea. I've seen that movie too.
That's a real movie, Vixen of the Sea.
No, I just made that up. I
I think, that's totally nuts.
I'm now goat
Might
of the
be
sea.
real.
Everybody
I like
is
that
now
goat of the sea.
Googling Vixen of the Sea and
Is
hitting
that a porno?
I am
It's a
over
porno.
18.
It's a porno.
It's a
That's
porno.
what the implication was, that it is a pornography, but I don't know
for
for
sure.
sure if it is. What is it, Rule 43?
Yeah,
Into
Rule
it.
34.
Rule 34, that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying, the Japanese ones seem to be a little bit more mythical and not nearly as attractive in most cases.
Right.
We're gonna get to
So,
some
like-
deeply rooted formative year exposure to Disney's Little Mermaid with me tonight, I think, at some point.
And this is real art that the Japanese have represented. But if you look to the right, and that again goes back to the severe polarization that we see when it comes to
Beauty and
merfolk.
ugly. But also part of it,
Like, look
too-
at this one right here, like Chase Louise.
Okay, but that's also
Yeah.
part of it too that I've heard in several of these lores and stories and myths and stuff, is that sometimes they start off very beautiful as a way to lure you
Ooh.
in, and then the closer you get, the uglier
Yeah.
they get. So they start off looking like this very beautiful, look at me surfing in the waves and my big titties, but then you get closer and the skin
hell yeah.
starts to turn green and the eyes disappear and the hair turns gray.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the mermaid story as well.
And that's
Oh, Lord
kind
have
of
mercy.
reminiscent.
Y'all
that's
better
reminiscent-
have a lot of drinks.
Sorry, drink. Yeah.
That's reminiscent of the like one of the skeptic theories behind this too is, like, I think we mentioned it on the Loch Ness Monster, or not Loch Ness Monster, the Champ. Was it Champ that we did?
Ogopogo?
Yeah.
Ogopogo. The Ogopogo episode is like, when sailors would report to see these things, it was just being from, like, depraved on the sea of, like, seeing women, or, like, you know, you're sun tired and seasick or whatever
Probably
happens to you at sea.
scabies.
Yeah, and then you, like,
Scabies.
scabies, you have scurvy and scabies and
Yeah.
herpes and AIDS,
All of it. Yeah.
sea AIDS. But basically, they would kind of have this pareidolia, which is a word we use a lot to.
I love that
You're
pareidolia.
looking for ladies in the sea, but, you know, from a distance, maybe that manatee or dolphin looks pretty sexy, and then you get up closer.
And
it's like,
that's a big misconception about when people talk about mermaids and stuff. Like a big thing that
Oh
people need to
my
understand.
God.
Like these people on these boats were out there at sea for like weeks and months at a time, who had
True.
no other contact, and quite honestly eating like really weird food and getting super drunk because it's the only thing
Sick,
to do on some
for
of these
sure.
boats. And you get really
Old
fucking sick.
food. Yeah.
And so
Hallucinations.
part of this is a little bit of these hallucinations and these delusions that they're having because they are homesick. They've been by themselves. They've been drinking fucking weird whiskey from the ocean for a long time. Like,
Ooh,
you're
ocean
breathing
whiskey.
in that seawater.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
Ocean whiskey.
it's insane. Like, you know, the meat that they had on boats was like meat that was just packed in salt. Just room temperature salt.
That's how all meat was packed back
there was, like,
then.
wars fought over salt.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Did
have
you
to think
guys
of all
ever
of those
see-
things. That's why they're seeing a lot of this crazy shit.
Yeah, totally. And then you
There's a
take
show.
a boat full of, like,
Damn
like sex deprived sailors,
Exactly.
and then anything looks good to go on the ocean.
You know,
That was funny.
I've been out on the Atlantic Ocean for, I think it was
Lots
out
of
for-
time.
Yes.
Okay. Did you see some shit
And-
out there? You could tell us.
Well, I obviously had alcohol in my room. That I can say this now because I'm not in the military anymore. And there's no
They let
repercussions.
you drink alcohol in the service?
Absolutely not on the boats, but it doesn't mean I didn't have it in my room.
It's like, yeah, that doesn't mean shit.
Such a rebel.
But you know, it's the ocean's really weird. So when you're actually out there and you're out to the point to where you cannot see land anymore, and you start going days and weeks without seeing land, it really starts to fuck with your mind
Yep.
because everything's blue, literally, unless there's clouds in the sky or it's like a storm or something.
And it just goes on forever. It's never
Yeah.
ending.
It's just blue everywhere, and it really fucks with your perception, and you kind of have to force yourself to focus on things that are close. You can't focus on the horizon, you can't focus on the sky during the day. You have to kind of focus on things that are close. Otherwise, it really starts to mess with your mind.
So maybe imaginary mer people is kind of sexy.
Listen, sea vixens.
I was like, listen, you do what you got to do when you're trying to. You got to use your imagination for some things. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There's a show, and I'm trying to remember it for you guys. I just asked Josh to remind me, but there was a really sick show, and I remember when we did definitely mention it when it was happening. We recorded some episode while it was aired, but it was about this expedition to Antarctica.
It's on the History Channel.
No, it's a fictional.
Really?
It's a fictional story, and it's gnarly, and there's like these wild polar bear type things, but it plays into the Terror.
Bobby knows everything. Like he's not Bobby.
Yep.
I loved The Terror. I thought that was an excellent show. Bobby will give his movie recommendation, but I'm going to push that show if anyone can see it, The Terror. And that's what it reminded me of, is like maybe hallucinations, maybe a real possibility of what they're seeing, and then the food that they're eating and the rations that they have to go through, and just the time frame of the food is literally making them sick, but then the only option is to eat it. And of course, I mean, no one has really experimented with what types of food fermented can really enable these hallucinations. So it could be something as simple as corned beef, like maybe canned corned beef that's like 5-6 months old with some certain type of gravy in there. Activates a hallucination.
Can you not realistically make some acid out of some orange juice and some bread in your fridge and some time?
That's what I'm saying. Like
exactly.
You can do it with
take
bread.
Some crazy shit. Yeah.
So there's actually a fungus that'll grow on wheat called ergot, and this is in France where the werewolf story came from, is because it's a psychedelic drug. So it's a psychedelic drug called ergot that grows on wheat, and it can absolutely fuck you up.
Yeah, that's one of the Salem witch trial theories as well.
There was an ergot.
Hold it. No more. Next episode, werewolves. Yeah, that's it. Tony just spiked it. So hold it. Hold off any other explanation, but we have passed it could be food on sea. You never know.
I think it's more, I mean, no pun intended. I think it's kind of a perfect storm of like depraved from land, like old food, probably bad water, cabin fever. There's like so many terrible conditions on a ship for a long time. Deprived of lady company.
Lady company?
Lady. And you also have to understand how small these boats really were.
Yeah, they're not big.
They were fucking tiny compared to what we're used to now. They're like,
which is why everybody got sick too, because they were literally living on top of each other. Like you couldn't not breathe other people's air.
Yeah.
Like honestly, it sounds like if you're bi, that you are at the top of the chain. If you're bi, you can get it on with everyone. If you're straight, then it's hard for you. That's why you go bi.
Yeah,
that's why you go bi.
It's like prison. It's like prison.
Everybody's disgusting on a boat. They're not taking showers.
Yeah, they're not. They smell so fucking bad.
If you want to, just side recommendation, there's a really good multi-part series that last podcast on the left did recently on Blackbeard, which is more or less an overview of like piracy in general, and you'll get a good, deep dive research of that life during that time to kind of expand on what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, the sea was horrible, absolutely horrible.
Thank you, Tony, for your service. We're gonna have to make an overlay of our servicemen.
Thank you for your service.
So our next slide is I'm bringing it really close to home. So we have this entire Japanese folklore and mythology laced into their culture, but just this year, there were these headlines all over the place in March that said 300-year-old mummified mermaid. So they did acquire this specimen.
Did they DNA
and They did in February, which was like right before March, when the headlines hit. So
Thank you for telling us how months work.
I could have said March 2023.
I thought you were gonna say like before the pandemic. You're just like before March.
No, it was like right before the stories hit. They did do a DNA analysis. There are more things to come, but this is what really hit headlines recently. So they were.
Stephen Greer fake alien.
It does look like the. It's called the Atacama. The Atacama mummy. However, this is like literally what it looks like. It has a fucking tail. It did go through CT scans, and it does have the skeleton spine like a fucking mermaid. So anyway, they're inside this museum, and they find this weird ass box. They open it, and inside of the box is this mummified mermaid person with a little note inside that said that a fisherman found the specimen 1736 to 1741. It was like within the time frame, and he gifted it to another family. The family then left it apparently in this museum. So it just like randomly popped up in a museum one day.
Sus, but go ahead.
Major sus. However, it does have real tracing back to like actual DNA. It's not a fabricated specimen whatsoever.
Okay, so
it is
What's the DNA?
1000% realistic. That has not been disclosed. It's just that now they did the Japanese government did let them in. So I guess there was like a moment in time where it was like, you know, the scientists were like, let us go in, let us check it out, do a whole investigation and see what it is. So that did take some time. That went through. They let them come in. And so now it's just this entirely huge. I mean, March, that was just like a couple months ago. We're in the midst of the chaos as of now.
What comes before March?
February.
Thank you.
I'm not going to say it again. God damn it. My bad.
Can you imagine being at a beach and being waist deep in water and this
And like seeing that,
goblin starts fucking swimming towards you? Like, how would you not
I'm not
meet
gonna
that
lie.
motherfucker across the
I
fucking
would
beach?
most likely shit right there in the ocean.
What's the creepiest to me is that Donald Trump fucking hair. Look at it. Look at that blonde comb over.
Stop.
It's so bad.
It's not. Don't pay attention to this because, like, no one. It's this that has like a little bit of something, but
I'm the best mermaid. I'm the best mermaid. I can swim the best.
I can totally swim the best.
I can swim the best. I can swim to China. I'm back.
China.
I'm just saying.
China.
I'm just saying it's very interesting that this has been far back than all of us have been born in their culture, and now modern times. It is.
But we still don't hear a lot of information about it.
But there kind of is. You just have to follow the story. I mean, this is really news. Like, breaking news. Okay?
As opposed to the other
takes
things we
time.
talk about on this show. This is like news.
It's actually news.
No, this was like news.
News.
This is like real news, not the shit we normally talk about.
This is not fake news.
Yeah,
Shit.
No, this is like headlines.
Three.
You know what? We all
It's the
deserve
best
right
news
now.
about.
Fucking hate criming on me. Like, can you guys just get with my fucking presentation? God damn
We're
it.
here.
Okay.
We're here.
That's what we're here for. We're here to.
Yes.
You're here and you're beyond queer right now.
Exactly.
And we don't want any more bears. That's a Simpsons
No more.
reference. Okay.
No one thinks this is relevant. Okay.
No, totally we do.
No, we're
It's
making jokes.
news, Bree. It's news.
Yeah.
It's breaking news.
Mermaid news.
Exactly.
In March.
My question
After
is
that was April. And
why
then it was
was this
May, and now
not-
we're in June.
I get it. So like, it's news, but like, why wasn't it on the news then, Brie?
It was. If you look it up, beach. I remember seeing it for sure. I think I actually saved it in our Factor Sci-Fi bucket that I have. But this was everywhere. If you type this in, you will see a million different links. I think they've done much more now. Hi, Danny. Then when it hit in March, and obviously if it hit the news in March, then they probably found it 2021. You know how that works.
The best
Hold it on for a little bit.
Right.
But I should have added in. There's a picture that the Japanese have where it looks just like this little creepy fella. Who knows?
It kind of looks like a
its
troll
teeth.
doll.
A little bit.
Okay,
I don't know
we'll
what
move
kind of troll
on.
dolls you had.
We'll move on to
Scary
Korea. We'll move on to
yeah.
Korea. In Blank Island in South Korea, a local legend of the mermaid Blank with fair white
Geomundo
skin
Island,
and
Shinjuku.
long black
Yeah, it's
hair.
Geomundo.
I just feel like
Geomundo.
it's rude for me to try to pronounce it.
I feel
Oh,
yeah.
nonsense.
She's there in the moonlight hours, and she is really just hopping onto the rocks to warn the fishermen if there's storms and shit coming.
So
And
she's a
like,
little bit more positive.
"Ah," and then she throws rocks.
So not a scary song and not a bad attack you, but like, hey, pay attention to me. Don't go out there. You'll die.
Mhm.
So the opposite
Exactly.
of most of the mermaids we've been talking about.
So
Yes,
this
queen.
mermaid is clearly a weather person, and
Okay,
is
She is the OG weather man.
and
For
she's
sure.
She's a
chucking
weather woman.
rocks at people. She's like, "Hey, fucktard, there's clouds out there. What are
Don't
you
go out
doing?"
there. Just throw in fucking rocks.
Yeah.
Don't do it, bitch. Yes, this is in Korea. But it is an entire cultural situation.
Mhm. That looks like Ursula, to be honest. Like with all the.
I was
little
like, that
legs.
one. Yeah, that one looks like
An
they're all
octopus,
merged
right?
together.
This
like a
looks
chimera?
nothing like Ursula.
No, but like with all the legs and stuff because they look merged together.
Ursula was like a squid lady.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you combine
was.
the three
She was an
upper
octo
body
bitch.
masses together, you'd get the same BMI.
You'd get
as
Ursula. I feel you. I understand your train of thoughts.
Yeah.
So now,
what I'm
so we're
doing.
gonna now dive into Greek mythology. Where is this stemming from? Greek mythology? It's everywhere, but I only picked out a few of the really big ones. So we have the Nereids, if I said that right. Nereids. There's 50 of them. Nereids. There's 50 of them.
So we'll appropriate Greek culture, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
I know.
Don't
Yeah,
fucking talk
whitey.
about the Koreans.
You know what? There's not too many of those like actually like Greek people
Yeah.
around anymore to take offense to it. So I think we're all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like no one's like, I'm the
the
16th ancestor of Troy. Like no one, no.
Yeah, nobody cares anymore.
No one cares, unfortunately. This is real paintings, though, so that's really special. Okay, so
very
they're
good
like,
at it.
sometimes they have tails and sometimes they don't. And I've also seen artist depictions where they have both, where there's tails but then feet. So maybe they have the ability to do both.
Well,
Little
from what I
shape-shifting.
see, they always have titties.
Always titties. Always.
Yeah, I'm
That's
gonna
the key.
screenshot that one real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
For sure.
Bang,
Leave that one
bang.
for later.
Spank bank on that one. Yeah.
I'm just gonna say that. For later.
Oh, this is one. Okay, so next
There we go. This
Sirens.
Angel
This
is
is where
literally
it gets
just
sexy.
like, hey,
I was like,
what's
yeah, this
going
is where
on?
it gets sexy. But like, look at those legs.
Whatever.
Those look like
Sick.
hawk legs.
Okay, so siren. So siren, the word siren is synonymous with mermaid in
Mermaids.
multiple different languages. In French, Italian, in Polish, Romania, Portuguese, and in Filipino. These words seem to kind of bleed into each other. So it's like Serena, Serena, there's all these different. I just added that for fun because it's basically all the same different words of the same thing. So in a siren traditionally was depicted with wings.
As a bird, so like it could go
Yes.
into the water and like breathe underwater and whatnot. So like the fish part of it was very small, and it was much more seen in the light of being a bird. Kind of give me seagull vibes, right? Because you think about like what you would see when you were out in the ocean.
Like an albatross
Seagulls.
diving
Yep.
into
You
Yep,
guys look,
exactly.
this is a little bit weird. It's like squeeze fountain.
Squeeze my little boobies.
Yes, so for a long time it was that the siren had wings. She'd lure sailors to their death, singing her beautiful songs just as normal mermaids do. But then over time they lost the wings, and then it was depicted that these sirens were just wingless, as this beautiful mer person is her.
person.
All right, so I
Mer
gotta ask you guys
person.
a question. Like, what's more our jam here?
We're not there yet.
No. Do we prefer a buxom lady with feathered wings and chicken legs, or a woman with a buxom lady with like scaly fin instead of legs?
So okay, so I'm gonna do this as the lesbian I used to be,
Tony's
and I'm gonna
face
say
right now.
that I'm gonna go with the bird woman purely because I can see she has normal sex organs and the fish does not. That's purely off my lesbian hormones.
Okay.
There's
you?
1,000 jokes to be made there. That
Well,
would
you know
give
what?
me.
That was a
heard-
question begging to be asked.
I
Yes.
heard that if it smells like fish, you're about to have a delicious
Oh my
dish.
God.
But if it
All right,
smells
let's
like
move on.
cologne, put it down. All right, it smells like cologne, turn it down.
So
I've
I mean,
never
I
heard
guess
that in my life. I think you made that up just now.
I heard it on TikTok, and ever since I heard it, I cannot stop repeating it. I love it so much.
Bird lady is a little more attractive,
Right? That's what I'm
than
saying.
fish lady, but
Yeah. And I think it's because I can clearly see her sex organs.
well, that and on the other side, I mean, flappy lady, you can just throw her in the fucking water and leave. Bird lady, you're not escaping her. She
You're not
will
escaping the
fucking
bird
hunt
lady.
you down.
She will hunt
She
you
will
down.
demand
There's something sexy
breakfast.
about that.
Yeah, she will find you. And she
Find you and she will hunt you down.
Well, this
Yeah.
went into a weird direction. I would expect nothing less on this
I
episode.
expect nothing less, I know. Although our we don't have a captain this episode per se, but our guide Bree has left us, and so we cannot go to the next slide. So we'll say hello to people in the chat. Hello, Chad. Hi, darling. Thank you for showing up. Hi, Caroline. You're so beautiful. Danny Satin said, "Didn't I see Doctor Who? Weeping
the Weeping
Angels."
Angels.
I feel like I've been beyond captain. I've been captain, guide, sailor. I'm the sailor of this
captain and
entire
guide.
ship.
Yeah.
This is more captain than I've seen any captain on this whole thing. I think
Wow,
it's
just
interesting.
call us all out.
We're gonna
Yeah, I
buy
think
you
it's
a
really
cool
interesting
trophy.
that
Well,
you
to
guys
be
would
fair,
rather
I'm keeping
the
up right with
wings.
you, bitch. So how dare you? Yeah, we both went right with the wings.
Yeah, Captain,
Are
we
you
need to
more
know
the
your
fish lady?
opinion.
I'm so fish lady. I love her. I think she's
Wow.
amazing. So like with wings here, you cannot bust a nut and leave the hut.
Oh my
You gotta
God.
stay.
Oh my god.
Do
This is a
you?
scientific show, guys.
It can't go that far.
This
So
is-
anyway.
Profound research. Science.
Breaking barriers down. This is
Obviously,
We are.
Obviously,
How
we
do you
researched
have
it.
sex with a bird woman chimera? Do you grab the?
I
base
don't
of
know,
the
but I don't
wings
like
or
her
the
thighs.
elbows?
They're
I don't
weird.
know.
I want to choke on them
Her
feathers.
elbows?
What?
No, her thighs. There's
Because they're
There's
draw
gonna
you
be
a picture.
hair. You can't even get through them feathers.
But
Not
the
into it.
mermaid doesn't even have a vagina.
She's slick.
You don't know that.
She's Rick. She's into it.
Technically,
There's-
he has a cloaca.
So I guess she would be a top?
You can
Alright.
biddy
Can we-
buck them.
Can we move to the next slide?
Oh, yeah,
now?
next slide, please.
Biddy- Biddy
know I
buck
brought it
her,
up.
and you're
We're
getting
the
places.
last- We're the last people.
Oh my god, now we got. Oh my
Wow,
god.
look at that
I'm definitely
one.
going to
With the
screenshot this
tail
one.
feathers. Jesus.
So this is
Okay,
your
so real
traditional
question.
siren.
Real
Yeah,
question
thank
about
you.
sirens, right? So traditionally, sirens would have sung beautiful songs that
Yes.
would have attracted sailors at the time, right?
Yes.
So now, are sirens singing like umbrella from, like, what are they singing?
They're singing like
some Dua Lipa or.
So I feel like most
Drop
mermaids or most sirens today. Go ahead and drink.
singing
Are on
Misty Misdemeanor
SoundCloud.
Elliott.
No, they're on SoundCloud.
They're singing Missy Elliott.
They're like, work it,
Elliot.
let me work it.
This beat is.
I'll put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Yeah. I'm feeling that one. It's for sure. It's for sure Missy Elliott, and it is for sure that fucking song.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm into that old chicken lady over there with her like
No, yeah,
gray hair.
No, I don't like her. I want
do.
to. I feel like
like
I
that
feel
one?
like I just so everyone knows.
Look.
I feel like I'm this first one, and Jamie's the one in the back.
Yeah, I'm
Just
the old
like,
one.
No, I said I'm the first
Oh,
one.
you're
I'm the old one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one. All right,
Yeah.
all right. If you
Does
This one looks
anybody
like
else
she had
see-
back surgery already, so I
know,
feel like
but
that's
love
me.
her. She looks so real.
She
like
is
that
Does anybody
real.
see the three
vibe.
skulls sitting underneath them and the bones?
Yeah, that's where
Yes.
like the eggs that they laid were the
Yeah,
skulls,
they were.
and the men they
They were
collected.
deadly creatures.
Yeah. they're
And
not
also
nice.
this right
Murder.
here, this is a UFO.
No, that's a
Oh,
ship or something of sorts.
No, it's a ship. But this is a UFO.
I think
There's a
that's
UFO
shield.
sitting on top of the Greek ship.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
If you say
Okay,
so,
going
Brie.
on to
We are
test
almost ready for the History
So the sister of
Tessa
Alexander,
low
the
Nike.
sister of Alexander the Great, was made immortal.
Okay.
So she was very in her grief. So she's like, I'm gonna throw
Buxom.
myself off of here. I'm gonna kill myself.
Always into the ocean.
But really, she transformed into a woman. I mean, a mermaid. She transformed into a mermaid. Drank a lot.
Can we talk about how fucking stupid Alexander the Great is? So he had a flask of water from the Fountain of Immortality and
Yes.
washed his sister's hair with it.
But that's half the problem. This
she-
is the one that had the hair that she was like, okay, you do you. And then he was dead and she was just like, what?
Well, my theory is
I think that they had a relationship. From what
I
I've
think that
gathered from
she-
both the stories, there's a relationship there.
she
Well,
received
incest.
immortality from the Fountain of Immortality, but it was like a depressed vampire effect where she wanted to kill herself.
I was like, that's what happens with a lot
So
of.
it's
I think,
not
stories
water,
about
it's a
immortality.
adrenochrome.
No,
It's no.
Focus.
It's just. It's this idea. It's this idea that like, what if we are immortal? Then what are we living for at that point? Because part of what makes life so special is the fact that it's gonna end. That there's a time limit
So
on it.
when you
So, like,
kill
it's-
yourself and you smash
Yeah.
yourself into the rocks near the water, you'll like Wolverine. What do they call it?
Yes.
What's the stuff that Wolverine's bones are made out of?
Adamantium.
You'll like
metal.
adamantium back
Oh,
as they
5 points
adapted
for
to
you.
the current environment. In this case, the water. So she morphed into a mermaid X-Man.
Maybe.
A mermexman.
She
Mermexman.
did Mermexium.
A Mexican
I have to
mermaid.
get more drink to drink.
Okay,
We'll go to the next
Bree.
slide for us then.
So, no,
finish
this
this
is like a really big topic here
Okay, sorry,
that
finish
she
it, finish it.
that because of that she plummeted into the water, turned into a mermaid, and then from then on the sailors or pirates or any of the other ship, the men that would go by, she would ask them, is Alexander still alive? And they would tell her, yes, he's there. He's
wasn't.
conquering the world. And if they wouldn't tell her what she wanted to hear, that he was, yes, still alive and still conquering the world, she would fucking kill them. And if not, she'd be like, okay.
Thanks,
Swimming
have a
on.
nice day.
Yeah, so she
Just
would
keep
turn into
swimming.
a kraken and pull the ship down.
Yeah.
That sounds
So you just-
to me like
it's like a
harbinger
riddle.
tale for sailors in the form of Alexander the Great propaganda.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. And
Well,
why is
she
he
has her
holding
own
his
statue.
half-naked sister.
Again,
Because
Brie
they're
was
in love.
Yeah, Brie was
She's
alluring to
gonna-
the fact that they might have been having some sort, which was incredibly common back in that time. So
It
it's not
was.
as weird as we think it is. Like, so the thing about like royalty and like even like the royals today, like they are built upon inbreeding, which is why a lot of them die early and have weird like what is the word I'm looking for? Like mutations and things like that.
Mutations,
loose
yeah.
skin.
Loose skin?
But it's because of the
wow.
inbreeding, and the reason behind it was because they wanted to keep like their blood pure. So if you bred with
Yeah.
a commoner, then you weren't special anymore. So it was important to them to like keep it within their family. So a lot of times, like brothers and sisters ended up falling in love with each other, and cousins and aunts and uncles, and just all sorts of weird shit.
I don't know if it was for
Well,
love.
it's different.
But
But
I'll tell you those.
But part of it is, though, if the two of them are royalty and they're isolated and they grow up together and they don't know anyone else, it is kind of love in a sense because they do end up bonding with each other. You know what I mean? Like, you can't tell me that picture doesn't show that man loves his sister holding her as a fish.
But,
well, it's different now because
sure.
we have different feelings towards incest, but back then you didn't have those feelings. Like,
It's
that wasn't a
generally
thing.
been
It's not an
taboo.
issue.
Yeah.
So it's like you grow up with someone, they look like you're getting along. Where now, if you have a brother, it's like your instinct to hate them and be like pitting me against mom or pitting me against dad. And that
think it's
time, I
way
feel like we
more-
just have to survive and make beautiful children.
I think it's way more of a biological repulsion as far as that goes. But I think that, like Bree was saying, or like Jamie was saying, it was more of like a bloodline thing mixed with like isolation from other commoners or whatever. And then like look at the rack on that mermaid.
I mean,
dog.
The
again,
statue,
she's great tits.
right?
Yeah. It's fucking
Great tits.
ideal right there.
And she's curvy. and all the right
Ideal.
poses. Like, I would also
Okay.
fall in love with her.
This is a statue there in the plaza. Next.
Ooh, so many
Well, there you
titties
go.
in
There
red.
she doesn't have
I
it,
just wanted
Bobby.
to say
What do
that.
you have to say now?
Yeah, look at
What do you
that
have to
little
say
flat And that
Give me
long
a
body.
six-pack. Let's party.
She's got still
Okay.
the hourglass kind of look going on.
I like this blue chick on the
This
right.
one, no.
Me
This
too.
one, no.
That one looks
This-
scary, yeah. She
This
looks like
one,
she's
no.
like-
This is very
She's
correct
like
for the
distracting you
times.
over here, but then she's like tickling your balls with her.
Correct for the times.
This is such a weird episode.
So now we're
know.
going to Titan, which is the merman, of course, the mythological Greek god and messenger of the sea. I don't think we have to go too much into Triton. We all
Yeah,
know who
everyone
he
knows
is.
about him, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We've all seen
oh.
The Little Mermaid.
Hello, Daddy.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Hello. Hello.
Ooh, that one on the right is very sexual.
It is. It's
So this one?
Yeah.
They're just dancing.
I almost put Josh's face right here because I felt like, okay, that's
Reminds of your husband. Nice.
that's Daddy Matt's. No, I'm just kidding. So other cultures that are recognized here. This is when we blow through them. We have in Scottish mythology
Don't even try to say that word.
the siege. Sounds right. Siege.
Sedge.
Okay, form of a woman in the tail of a salmon. So kind of the same thing, right? A mermaid.
Yeah.
Ireland and Scotland had the marrow,
Three wishes.
which
They're kind of like a fucked up water genie.
Yeah.
hey, I like that shit though. Human above the waist, fish tail and webbed hands. So it's kind of the biggest difference I see is either there's the lower just fish or they're like really morphed where they have the webbed hands.
It's like their extremities are affected
Yes.
by it. Mhm.
That
Right.
kind of reminds me of the mer people in Harry Potter. They had the webbed hands.
Yeah,
Ooh,
the webbed
yes,
hands and the
yes,
swam, yeah.
yes, absolutely. So in German legends, there's the Undine, which is immortal, but they don't have a soul. But the story is that if
They're
they
ginger.
mer people Undine marries a human and bears him a child, that she has this option to gain a soul, but as soon as the child is born, she starts to age. So it's like she has to decide. You're either ageless, timeless, immortal in her state now, or
Or you're a
she
human,
gets with
basically.
someone. She gets with someone, she carries a child, she bears the child, but then she starts to age immediately. And that's tough because, once that happens, then she obviously resents the dad and then curses him, and they both return back into the water. So it sounds like a very vicious, endless cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very toxic. In Africa, there's the Mami Wata, which means mother of water. She's a merman or a merman, which is also in the Caribbean. Oh, sorry. I was trying to get this.
Mm-hmm.
They're both mermaids, basically. In Brazil, we have the Aira, which is often depicted as a mermaid, but is most likely a water nymph. And sometimes a sighing. It's depending on the story because there's so many different versions of them, like most of these stories.
A water nymph is just a horny mermaid.
Yes.
Right.
Hornier.
A beautiful young woman with green hair and light skin. Love it.
You know that story was made up by a dude.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
There's this beautiful woman in the river, and everyone was like, bullshit, dude. No, I totally
sleeping under the sun. She sings gently to lure him into the water to spend the rest of his life underwater with her. So she's all alone. She's like, come to me.
Come to me.
Yeah, that's called an alligator.
He's like, all right, I'm going to bring you down below the sea.
Were you going to say
and then
something?
We have the Philippines.
Go ahead and finish the Philippines. I want to make one point, though.
Go for it, Brie.
Serena and Cinderella, which is also a mermaid and merman, above the waist with the fish tail. They can be either good or evil depending on the story that you read. And it is also the same thing where they are kind of luring people, but particularly sailors, into the water with them. But in some occasions, again, depending on the story, sometimes they're not luring the sailors, but they're actually saving the sailors from certain situations. Like if there's a mass storm, if they're going to drown, then they might come above water and help them out of the situation, kind of like Little Mermaid did.
If we want to, like, you know how people like to point out that there's all these common motifs that transcend culture and geography with mythology. So, for example, like the flood myth, people think that the flood myth
so true
has a lot more, like the actual cataclysm has more validity because
so many cultures recognize it within their religion. Yeah,
in origin cultures around the world.
Same thing with Tower of Babel. Yeah.
Yeah, Tower of Babel, even the Garden of Eden. There's various versions of it. I'm getting the same kind of vibes with mermaids in this case, and I was not expecting that.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we want to say that this consistency lends credibility to things like the flood and things like that, I mean, we have to kind of look at mermaids through that lens to a degree. However, I think that any seafaring culture of sex-deprived sailors has the vulnerability as well to hallucinate.
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
Which could,
and I think it's important too, like what you were talking about, how it spans between all these different religions. Is I think that that's something that we kind of commonly all agree upon here. That when it comes to the religion side of things, it's that we tend to believe more in something that is spanned through all of these religions than necessarily something that's specific to each of these religions. Because I think it just makes it more believable. Specifically, the flood that you're talking about, like it is every culture, every religion has this idea and this version of it. So like, why would we not?
So
you know
maybe it's not a literal thing, but the source of the phenomenon itself is based on the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So even if it's a misidentification, it might be a misidentification throughout every culture based on the same circumstances, right? I mean, that's the skeptical thing about universal flood myth is well, every culture experiences a flood at some point. It doesn't mean it's the same one that
happened all at the same time.
That happened across the entire planet. So I don't know.
No, absolutely.
No, it's and like I said before, it's one of those. It's one of those mythologies like dragons or Bigfoot that just happens to be everywhere. And when we get to the point where we're gonna rate this, I'm gonna explain why I'm rating it the way that I am.
All right, let's get into the Little Mermaid.
We're reflecting on the Little Mermaid,
so I said
which
earlier,
has its own story.
This word of the Disneyfication of things, and this is one of them. So a lot of things.
Like Hans Christian Andersen or something?
Yes, Hans Christian Andersen
right
in 1836. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was published in 1836, he wrote it in 1830s, or published in 1837, he wrote it in 1836. Oh. But one thing you guys need to know about Disney stories is none of them are really original. They are all actual like folklore stories that Disney took and just kind of slapped happy endings onto. So
most are Brothers Grimm.
They're not all happy endings.
That's exactly. They're not all happy endings.
Well, yeah, look up the original versions of some of those stories.
Exactly, and this is one of them. So there's a lot of similarities that you're going to hear throughout the actual Little Mermaid, and then you're going to hear a lot of differences. So this mermaid, the Little Mermaid, actually does not have a name inside of this story. And what happens is she's turning 15 years old, and when you turn 15, it's a rite of passage for you to go up to the surface to observe the humans.
Like the Amish.
But you can't interact. Exactly. You can't interact with these humans because there's one very important thing. You do not have a soul. Only the humans have souls. So this kind of goes back to some of those other stories that Bree was talking about where they're saying, they don't have a soul. And so her dad is like very adamant on the fact of like, do not interact with them. They don't have souls. So she goes up into the surface, and lo and behold, the giant storm happens. And there's this very beautiful, handsome prince on a boat who falls off and ends up, drowning, just like the regular movie. She goes and saves him, places him upon the shore, and leaves before he wakes up so that she doesn't, give herself up by any means. But of course, this one interaction she has with the man, she falls head over heels in love, and she just she doesn't know what to do about the situation. So she goes down to what is, I love this, it's the Sorcerer of the Abyss. And goes exactly, Cthulhu, basically, and goes to strike a deal. She decides to trade her tongue, not her voice. Her tongue was actually cut out for legs, but if the prince doesn't fall in love with her... I
consider that a win-win.
Well, right?
If you're the prince, am I right? Am I right?
That was her first mistake. Keep the tongue, leave the voice.
Exactly. So she trades her voice for this, but if the prince doesn't fall in love with her, it's not like she just turns back into a mermaid. She straight up dies. Like, this is like a YOLO kind of situation. Like, you're all in chips wise. It was either this prince falls in love with you or marry you, or specifically she's going to turn into sea foam.
It's the monkey paw.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So of course the girl's like, yes, I will take this. I can do it. I have faith in myself. And so she's about to leave, and on the way out, the Sorceress of the Abyss goes, oh yeah, by the way, when you go to walk on land, it's going to be so painful that every step that you take is going to feel like a million swords shooting up inside of you. So this is like a really uphill battle for her, because even though she has legs, she can't necessarily walk once she's on land. So she gets up to the shore. Exactly. She gets up to the shore. She kind of hobbles her way up and crawls up and like lays on a rock, and the prince ends up finding her. And the prince, of course, is like, oh, I will take this poor girl who has no tongue and can't walk in, and I will care for her. And they spend lots of time together, but eventually the prince ends up confessing to her that he's fallen in love with someone. And the irony of it is that the person that he fell in love with was this random woman who he thought saved him from the shipwreck.
But
and this woman,
her.
Exactly. And this woman who like had no idea what the guy was talking about just fucking went along with it, because if a prince comes up to you and is like, you saved me and you're the love of my life, you just fucking go with it.
Yeah.
So it's just not fair.
What you're telling me is in the book, there was no scene where they were like, sha la 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 la,
don't be shy, na 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 na.
That didn't happen?
Never, not once. No.
My whole fucking life.
Is there a priest that gets a boner in this version of the story?
Not this one, but the thing is that part of the
Disney,
story.
am I right, guys?
Part of the story has a little bit of an interesting kind of sense to it because it wasn't happening, but it was alluded that the prince was much older than this 15-year-old girl, and some of the things that he said during the story were a little bit creepy. And like one of the things that he said is he was like, "Ooh, I love her like I could love a child," but he didn't mean it in like a
Prince Andrew.
Yes, exactly. He meant it in a Prince Andrew kind of way. So there's this big motif throughout the story. And part of the reason why he ended up not choosing her was because she was a literal child at the time.
So he drank her blood instead.
Okay, so wait.
To keep himself young.
So
Merblood.
Devastated. She just lies in bed and she's waiting for
Merblood.
Listen, she's lying in bed. She's waiting for dawn because she knows that she's going to die and turn into sea foam. But her sisters are clued into what's happening. So they go down to the abyss witch lady and is like, "Hey, what can I do to save my sister?" And the witch goes, "All right, here's the deal. Shave all your heads, scalp yourself, give it to me. I want that motherfucking hair, both of you. I'm going to give you this knife. You have to give it to the mermaid up there. She has to murder the prince in order to live. If she murders the prince, all is forgiven. She can come back. Everything will be normal."
Wait a sec. Hold on. Time out.
Yeah.
You just brought a whole new layer
Yeah.
to murder.
Drink to that one.
Murder.
So anyway,
Maybe that's why it's called that. Okay, so
the royal family kills babies.
Yes,
100%.
that's true.
Adrenochrome. So she gets this knife. She gets this knife from her sisters, and she sneaks into the marital bedroom of these two. They just got married. This was their first night together, and she's like standing over them with the knife, standing in pain because again, the shooting pain with like her no tongue, like standing over them. And in that moment, she decides, "I love him too much to murder him." Throws the knife down and throws herself into the ocean to die and become sea foam. But in that moment, in that very sweet, sweet moment, wind fairies just come out of nowhere and grab her and say, "Hey, wait a second. I know you're going to go in the ocean and die and become sea foam, but instead, what if I offer you that you are a slave for the next 300 years to the human race?
Smart,
and if you do good by them, then you can have a soul and go to heaven." And she said, "Hell yes, I'll do that." So she became the wind with the wind fairies, and she did good for 300 years to mankind, and then she was granted heaven.
People were
God
fucking
damn
weird
it.
back then.
That is the real Little Mermaid.
Dude,
I would
how
like to see a
easy would
real
it be
adaptation
to
of
write?
that story?
Like, if I could go back to like 1,000 years ago, I could write the most fucked up stories, and then
Yeah.
1,000 years later,
You're like, this guy's a
podcast
genius.
would be happening, but they would be like, "Oh, this fucking
Murder.
Genius."
Yeah.
Wait, that's a really hefty decision. Like, I'm really thinking that. I feel like
Going back in
when you're
time?
in the time, if someone offers you death, which is eternal, or 300 years, you do your time, like, that's crazy. That I don't know
Here's
if I
the
would
thing,
do
though.
that.
But as a being who didn't have a soul, when she died, there's not eternity. There's nothing anymore. So she chose to have eternity. So in order to get to heaven, she had to do those trials and tribulation. It's not like it's something that's just given to people. You had to earn it, because
But that's
without
worse,
it was
in my
nothing.
opinion.
I mean, yeah,
That
I
is
agree with you.
heavier
I'm with you.
stakes, because
I
that's
agree
either
with
you
you.
cease to exist, which is easy peasy, wash your hands, done.
You're done. Yeah.
Or there's foreverness, where you have to go through the trials, resist, live. Even when you're in heaven, it's still forever.
Yeah, but that good eternity is forever. You just have to live through 300 years of shit. And is that any different than having a job and then retiring and dying?
I think that was kind of the idea of it, of what they were trying to instill inside of there is, again, like, nothing is free. It's about hard work. And if you had, like, you can't take the easy way out. It wasn't about doing some spell or some witch because you want it to be good and go to heaven. Because at the end of the day, The Little Mermaid was kind of a story about going to heaven. Like, that's really what it was originally when it was written in that time. It was about
But that's
being good
Jesus.
and going to heaven. But that's what it was, though. That was the original story. It's just completely different now that Disney took it and turned it into something else.
Yeah, I thought this was the show about Bigfoots. Are we going to talk about Bigfoots?
No,
Eventually.
never.
We're talking about mermaids.
I
All
think
right,
that it's helpful to know the backstory.
Okay, so we're gonna get.
Are
it's
we
Bobby's
not
turn
done?
for this one. No, I was like, it's Bobby's turn. Yeah, we
Well,
gotta
I
get
think that we-
Any final
I
thoughts on this segment here?
No, let Bobby get into it first.
Let me
then
give
we'll
you a
wrap
quick overview of aquatic ape theory because I want to kind of move this into modern times. And honestly, I don't know how many more slides of this presentation.
This is the
there
last
are, but
one.
We will definitely need to leave this as a cliffhanger because there's so much.
This is the last one. Bobby's going to talk about this, and then I have 3 mermaid videos, and then we'll factor sci-fi and wrap it up.
Awesome.
Ooh.
So
I'm
basically,
juicy.
Let me pull up my notes real quick.
I feel a little juicy for this.
There's a gentleman in the 1960s who was a marine biologist who, his name was Alistair Hardy, who basically proposed the aquatic ape hypothesis or aquatic ape theory, more or less suggesting that a lot of features found in humans would lend to the possibility that we more or less evolved in aquatic areas, which would lend to the, if you want to take that to the next level, perhaps there was like a renegade subspecies of hominids that evolved into the sea. So basically, he argues that because of our abilities and enjoyment of water is one thing. Also, our loss of body hair, as you will see on sea mammals like dolphins and manatees and stuff like that, that makes it more useful to travel through the water. We have very flexible vertebrae. They think this theory suggests that our ability to walk upright was adapted in the water because if you're hunched over, you're going to have your face in the water more likely. And when you walk upright, as far as hunting goes, you can see more of the surrounding areas of prey, I guess. And then also things like sweating and crying is a way to remove large amounts of salt in our systems. And
That's so true.
Also, like webbing of our fingers. Sometimes we'll even see babies that are born with actual webbed fingers.
Or like in water.
That's
like why do we get the things in our fingers? And when we're in the water, like our fingers. People say it's to adapt to grip things.
Yeah, and that's part of it too. And that's like the big skepticism of all these points that this guy makes is like these aren't exclusively advantageous just in like aquatic settings. Though it's interesting, like this whole theory is mostly poo-pooed by like mainstream anthropology or whatever you want to say. And a lot of these things that I just mentioned are perfectly applicable in like terrestrial evolution as well. If anything, it lends to like perhaps we went through an aquatic phase, or there was a lot of meaning we more or less lived a lot of our life in the water, though we never like actually evolved into the water. And if you think about it, like if you study, like I swear to God, I studied geography in college, and like it was like all I remember about it is like, hey, civilization is built around water. Like that's what it is. Like humans need water. You need it to drink. There's plenty of food sources there, et cetera, et cetera. So it makes sense that a hominid would gravitate towards water, and perhaps there were certain tribes or subspecies or whatever that did adapt better for the water. But again, when you extrapolate this theory out, it kind of lends to the mermaid mythology. There is what? Wait,
can I throw a wrench in your thing?
Please do. I don't have any.
Okay,
any
so I heard a new theory on TikTok that I'm kind of into, and it was the theory that I know I love it. It's the theory that
I'm so jealous.
What if God is water? If you really think about it, it surrounds us. It's omnipresent. It's within us. We breathe it in. It literally is life. What if what we think of God is actually water?
So yeah, mermaids are pretty cool. They of us immersing ourselves in godlike entities or whatever Jamie just said.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And there's a whole like fake documentary that came out a few years ago. I think it was on Animal Planet, and they played it straight.
Was it fake? Was it fake?
Yeah, they say it was fake at the end.
You think so?
They said it was.
I forgot what it's called. You can find it if you just look up like mermaid documentary. But
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I watched it like I have Bigfoot brain. I'm just like, oh my god, this is amazing. I'm like so gullible through the whole thing, and then it felt like very scripted in parts. I'm like, these seem like actors, and then by the end of it, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, this is all like fun bullshit, fake documentary about how this crew on the sea found and captured a mermaid. But it goes into all this aquatic ape theory stuff too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
right.
I think that I just want to know this. I think that this topic does deserve a whole nother episode with modern sightings and encounters beyond just the mythology. This is just the tip of the iceberg, as we alluded to at the beginning of the episode. So we will definitely swing back around this, but let's take a look at some videos.
Let's take a look at some videos. Bree, leave your thing up because they're going to pop up in the middle of the screen. So I'll give you this first one right here.
Coffee.
Okay.
That
So
looks just like me.
I was muted, but that is not West Virginia.
Really?
Ooh,
I
West
didn't know-
Virginia.
I-
no water?
To be fair, that mermaid looked like it was like strung out on crank, though.
Well,
little bit like a little meth,
which
yeah.
is very West Virginia. But can you bring back up?
Yeah, for sure. Let me. Also, you have to physically unmute yourself while it plays because it'll automatically mute you. Okay.
Okay, so stop. Pause it when it zooms back out.
It won't let me pause it.
Okay, so if you look at the hill in the background, this is actually a desert area. That vegetation does not exist in West Virginia.
Ah, so CGI.
Yeah, well, it's just not in West Virginia. I don't know what's going on with this limestone shelter here, but it is not West Virginia. This is probably...
That is not West Virginia vibes.
No.
It's okay. People be throwing all sorts of weird shit on top of there. Okay, I'm gonna do this next one. I'm gonna warn you all
Sci-fi
now.
on that one.
I'm gonna warn you all now. It's really fucking loud. So I'm warning you. There's no way for me to turn the volume down. So just
Oh,
warn
Lord.
yourself. It's a little loud. Just doesn't seem
Again,
real in any capacity.
like
It's
me when I
giving
wake
me-
up, maybe.
Yeah, it's giving me like CGI vibes so bad.
But,
All of
I mean, if it is CGI, they did a really good job because if you
They did a very good job.
If you look at the way the light comes through the tail, it's just like if you're fishing on the ocean, you catch a
And you see the-
stingray or a skate. It's got the same coloration
Thing.
and then the way the shadow is on the dock, it's really good. If it's CGI, it's really good, and somebody spent a lot of time.
All right, here's the last one, guys.
Yeah, man, this is cool. Got a seal on the rock down there? Nothing. Yeah. That's a weird looking seal, man. Are you filming this? Yeah. How do you, where's the zoom on this? Yeah, it's that button. Oh, there, I got it. I don't, it's a seal, man. Oh my God! What is that? Did you just tell me you got that? What? See that? What? That is not a seal, man! Oh my God! Oh my.
All right,
Okay, that was
first.
really
go ahead.
bad.
Fake.
The CGI wasn't bad. It was the circumstance, and the entire video was very obviously faked.
Yeah.
The way they were interacting just reeked of like, hey, all right, we're gonna take this shot.
Yeah.
and you
I'm
guys
pretty
act
sure
like
it was dubbed
frantic.
over. If you really pay attention to the mouth, the way it's talking, I don't think it's the same
Yeah.
audio by any means.
Pay
And one of the
attention to that
things-
mouth.
So there's obvious cues in the words that he's saying. He's like, how do you zoom in? And
Yeah.
like if you're
I got it.
building a video,
And not
you
those
would
guys.
use that to put the CG in there, the CGI in there, and you're building on those audio cues, and that's that's
Totally.
completely scripted and fake.
Bunk jump.
But
All right.
other than those videos, though, there have been so many modern day claims,
Encounters.
claims of mer people, and it's almost impossible to keep up with. I mean, it's like daily. All over the world, and that goes back to like we can't pinpoint. I think we need to do a part 2, even though I'm normally against that. I don't
It's
know.
such a huge subject, though. I mean,
That's
we
the
really
problem.
can't
We
cover
thought it would be like
Yeah.
goldfish, and it's not.
it. Right.
And it's not. All right, so let's factor sci-fi this one then. We'll start off, Tony. We'll give it to you first because I feel like you got strong opinions about this one.
Ooh,
Yeah,
hit
I
me.
do. I think if you look at all the historical data, and even when you look at the explanations where they say in like Florida or the Caribbean that they were seeing manatees or that's a hard sell to say that somebody misidentified a big fat fucking mammal that floats in the water and doesn't really do anything but eat with a beautiful woman with long flowing hair and half a fish body. You would have to have a lot of negative medical conditions going on, or you would have had to have eaten something really bad, and then for that psychosis to spread throughout the ship and other ships. I just think that there's enough information out there and enough stories out there where there might be some truth to it. It just may not be exactly how it's portrayed. And I like with what Bobby was talking about the aquatic ape theory, which I have read into, and I believe that there's probably a lot of truth to that. I'm gonna middle bitch it.
Oh, I knew it.
Leaning towards a fact, but it's a
I
fact.
fucking knew it.
But we need to know more.
Need more information.
Yeah.
All right, Bree, what about you?
I'm giving it an 8. No, I'm giving it a 9. I'm giving it a 9. I'm giving it a 9. I'm giving it a 9.
You're
I
giving a pretty
would.
solid fact.
I am.
Pretty much a fact.
Which is really difficult to separate. It's hard for me to separate what I've learned from what I believe in now times. You know, when you think of something like mermaids, I would love to say sci-fi. But in doing the research, I feel like there's so much evidence, and there's even more evidence and more stories and documented instances than we have even covered today.
That we've barely
And
scratched the surface.
like, I mean, like, this is a longer Bobby Scripted Corner than usual, where I feel like we're kind of just like playing with an idea. This idea, I feel like, is very substantial. And again, I thought I was going to give this a 1, if that. And then after looking into it, I'm like, God damn, there's no way all these cultures, it's been carried on. I feel like there's more evidence here than people that have had alien interactions. I hate to say that, but I kind of feel like it's more substantial evidence-wise
Yeah.
than alien encounters, which is like mind-blowing to me.
All right, Bobby, what about you?
Like Brie, I went in on a hard 1. After researching it, there's a couple things we didn't get to, which again I think deserves another episode.
Another round,
for example, we never even talked about the vastness of the sea and the possibilities.
Oh, for sure. You're right. We
how
did
it's
not.
barely even explored. We never talked about Hollow Earth theory or kind of the modern mythologies around mermaids. We never talked about a lot of the modern accounts of sightings. So this might tick up much further the next time we continue covering this. But for now, I'm at instead of a hard 1, I'm at a hard 2.
Oh,
Are you serious?
Wow.
Are you shitting my dick right now?
Wait, but it's
I'm
ever
still
evolving.
not convinced. Convinced, but it will evolve, I'm sure.
I'm gonna give it a solid 8 for fact, because it is giving me these Bigfoot vibes. And like I said at the beginning, when it comes down to when you have it spanning globally throughout cultures, I am just more inclined to believe in it than I am something that's so micro and only happened to a small community. So I'm gonna have to straight up fact that one.
I'm shooketh.
Wow.
I feel like Bobby and I should be switching our
Your guys'
verdicts
things?
here.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
very.
very confused. Like, where am I? Am I in Bree's Cryptid Corner now? Like, what's going on?
I do have to say before we get out of here, we did have a donation
What?
during our stream, and I just want to say thank you to Caroline Barnett for the $10 on PayPal. We love you.
Oh, thank you, Caroline.
Thank you so much for sending us your hard-earned money.
We're waiting for our hopefully, if we're under the guidelines, if we can watch our voices and shit.
Instantly canceled.
I
Then we
should get
can,
monetization probably next week, you guys. Should be able to get super chats and stuff like that. We're hoping everything is in the works. We already applied for everything. We had all of the qualifications other than the 1,000 for quite some time now. So pray for us. Throw some cinnamon in your candle. I don't know.
Sing to the other mermaids. We love you. We believe in you.
Mermaids
All right,
are
any
real.
final
Bye.
Yeah,
Okay,
actually,
any final thoughts?
my final thoughts is like, where
Reason about
was
to change.
Bobby in this?
He's right there.
I'm not.
Like,
gonna-
how were you not in
Okay,
in
so
this?
based on what we've talked about tonight, again, we haven't scratched the surface as far as I think it should go.
But we
Based on-
scratched a few layers.
No,
though.
we did scratch the surface. But
We
we haven't-
scratched some psoriasis. Okay,
Look,
so there was psoriasis. We scratched through
transcending-
that.
I get the whole, like, it transcends cultures and it's a common motif around the world. But again, I think misidentifications based on a shared circumstance can very much contribute to a misidentification of or misinterpretation of something that will evolve into the cultural zeitgeist of mythology or whatever. So I'm just not. I haven't seen any. We didn't do anything really scientific on this episode.
It's very true,
That makes
and
sense.
we'll get more into it. Yeah, there's
It's
a lot
not a
of
bad. Don't look at me like that. It's not. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that as a bad thing. Like, there's a lot to cover with this topic, and as of right now, I've gone from a 1 to a 2.
All right.
I feel like I did not do my job.
Well, we'll try harder for next time.
You did do your job.
Try
No,
harder.
you did. This subject is just so deep, like we're all saying. I mean,
Unexpectedly
nobody
so, which-
expected it to be.
As deep as it was, exactly.
Yeah.
No, none of us did,
Pun
honestly.
intended.
Hey,
I'm like,
all right, you guys. We are going to see you guys next week for Bobby's Cryptid Corner. We're doing, I think we all just agreed, werewolves is what we're doing
Werewolves.
next Tuesday. Werewolves. Let's get it.
Not real.
thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, though, for
Yeah, thank you
Tony's
guys.
very
Tony's
first episode as a
official
permanent
episode. Yes.
ho.
The fourth
Hopefully,
corner.
So cool.
Hopefully,
The
I know
fourth
that-
quarter.
I was like, I know that for now he's just on Bobby's
I love
Cryptid
that.
Corner, but hopefully we can start to wrangle him into some other projects that we do too. So if you start to see Tony sprinkled more throughout the show,
I'm
don't
sorry.
be surprised. Bobby
Fill the
over
voids
here,
that I
Bobby.
cannot.
I was like, Bobby only will give us Tuesdays, so we're limited. But we love you guys and thank you guys all for hanging out.
Yay.
Bye,
I'm literally
guys.
going back to work after we get off this. Mermaids are
Oh.
real.
Liars. By work, he
Bye.
means the pool. He